Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Let me ask you something you might not say out loud, but you've surely felt it in your gut. Have you ever sat across from a woman you care about, maybe at the kitchen table, maybe in the quiet after an argument, maybe when she's not even looking at you, and wondered, does she really love me? I'm not talking about the sweet nothings or the automatic I love yous that slip into routine. I mean the real thing, the kind of love that sees your shadows and stays, that challenges you, nourishes you, chooses you even when life gets hard. You see, love true, grounded, enduring love doesn't always show up in the ways we've been taught to expect. It's not just about the grand gestures or the passionate nights. Sometimes it's in the smallest behaviors, the quiet shifts in how she speaks to you, how she responds when you're not at your best, the way she holds your ambition, your fears, your mess. And still sees a man worth loving, but many men miss it, not because they're careless, but because they've never been taught to read the emotional language of a woman's real devotion. So today, we're going to slow it down, no performance, no checklist, just a raw, honest exploration of what women do, subtly, consistently, unforgettably, when they genuinely love a man. And no, it's not always what you expect. But if you know how to see it, you'll never feel unsure again. Have you ever felt the weight of silence after an argument, that cold space in the room where her voice used to be soft or teasing or full of mischief? There's a certain ache that creeps in, not because she raised her voice, but because she didn't, not because she walked out, but because she stayed, and still felt far away. That's the moment when many men start asking themselves the question they don't want to face. Is this real love, or is it just habit? And yet I want to bring you into another moment, one just as quiet, but entirely different. The way she gently presses her palm to your back when you're stressed, no words needed. The way she remembers how you take your coffee without asking. How she laughs at your bad jokes, not because they're funny, but because you made them. That's not performance, that's presence, that's not infatuation, that's a woman who's decided that you are her place to rest. Her investment, her man. You see, we talk a lot about how men express love, or don't, but we rarely teach men how to recognize the quiet power of a woman who's truly committed to them. And when you miss that, you miss everything, because when a woman genuinely loves you, she shows up differently. And not just in the big cinematic moments, no, she's far more subtle than that. She'll often express her love in ways that are layered, complex, even paradoxical. Sometimes you'll feel challenged, sometimes you'll feel deeply seen, and sometimes when you're not paying attention, you'll miss how beautifully she's been loving you all along. One of the first signs, and perhaps the most misunderstood, is how she begins to prioritize your emotional well-being, often without calling attention to it. She'll ask, "How was your day?" in a way that invites more than a one-word answer. She listens not just to your words, but to your silences. If you come home withdrawn, she doesn't immediately demand answers. She watches, she waits, she makes space. And when you're ready to talk, you'll notice she remembers details most others overlook. The way your boss dismissed your idea in the meeting. The way your father's words still affect you. The nights you wake up restless, unsure why. This isn't about caretaking in the mothering sense. No, this is emotional tuning. She's reading the frequency of your inner world, and choosing to meet you there. Not to fix you, not to manage you, but to understand you, and that, my dear listener, is rare, because it requires a woman to slow down her own inner noise just to truly hear yours. She's not just loving the version of you that's strong and competent and successful. She's loving the parts of you that are still in process. The man you're becoming, the man you're afraid to be, and when she loves you, she lets you be soft with her. Do you know how sacred that is? A woman in love doesn't just want to be your lover, she wants to be your witness. And so she creates a space, often without even realizing it, where your defenses can lower and your real voice can speak. Now let's talk about something less poetic, but just as powerful: consistency. When a woman is genuinely in love, she becomes consistent in how she connects with you. Not perfect, not predictable, but consistent. She doesn't just disappear when things get complicated. She doesn't pull away every time you show vulnerability. She leans in even when it's uncomfortable. And it's in the day-to-day rhythm, those small rituals of connection, that her love begins to root itself into your life. She calls to check in, even when she's busy. She notices when you've had a long week and plans a quiet night in, not to impress you, but to restore you. She chooses to show up, not only when it's convenient, but when it's meaningful. Even during tension, she doesn't use silence as a weapon. She uses it as a moment of grace, because love, for a woman who is truly in it, is not about grand gestures. It's about the micro moments, the little repairs, the deep attentiveness to how she affects you, not just what she gives you. And sometimes the way she loves you won't look sweet at all. Sometimes it's in the confrontation. You see, when a woman genuinely loves you, she will challenge you, not to criticize, not to control, but because she believes in the man you are capable of becoming. She doesn't flatter your ego just to keep the peace. She'll ask the hard questions. She'll call out the contradictions between your words and your actions, not to humiliate you, but to help you see yourself more clearly. Because love that doesn't push you to grow isn't love, it's comfort, and comfort can be lovely, yes, but it can also be dangerous. She knows that when she risks tension, she risks losing your approval. But she does it anyway because your integrity matters more to her than your applause, and that's real devotion. Now you may feel tested by this kind of love, because it doesn't always feel like agreement, but listen closely. It always comes from a place of investment. She's not trying to change you. She's trying to connect with the fullest version of you. And sometimes the only way to do that is to lovingly disturb your patterns, to hold you accountable to your highest self. It takes courage for a woman to confront a man she loves, especially in a world where so many are told to stay quiet, stay sweet, stay agreeable. But when she chooses truth over comfort with you, when she risks rupture for the sake of repair that's not nagging, that's partnership. Because here's something I've learned in my years of working with couples around the world. The greatest gift a woman gives when she truly loves you is emotional courage. The courage to say, I see more in you than you see in yourself, and I will not betray that vision. So maybe next time she pushes back on something you brushed off, pause. Maybe she's not being difficult. Maybe she's being devoted. And if you're lucky, you'll start to recognize that underneath every confrontation is a question. Can I trust you to grow with me? Not just for me, but for us. Now breathe for a moment. Let that settle in. The love that sees you is the love that shapes you. Not by force, but by belief. There's something deeply sensual about a woman in love that has nothing to do with lingerie or red lipstick or the way she walks into a room. It's the kind of sensuality that emerges when she feels safe, when she feels seen, when her love is not questioned but received. And when she's truly in love with you, one of the most revealing things she does, often without realizing, is begin to weave herself into your world. Not in a way that invades, but in a way that integrates. She starts to care about what matters to you, because it matters to you. Your passions, your quirks, your strange obsessions, your goals that might seem wild to others. She doesn't mock them, she leans in. Even if she doesn't fully understand them, she still finds a way to support you. That's not blind loyalty. That's emotional intimacy. She's not trying to become you. She's not molding herself into your shadow. No, she's adding herself to the tapestry of your life. She might remember the name of the friend you've known since childhood, or show up to support your weird little side project that no one else understands. Not because it interests her, but because you interest her. This is how a woman in love contributes to your emotional ecology. She doesn't need to dominate the space. She just wants to inhabit it with you. She becomes fluent in your language, not just your words, but your ways. And here's something men often overlook. When a woman loves you, she starts to include you in the architecture of her own future. Listen carefully to the way she talks about what's next. If she says I, when talking about plans, she's still figuring things out. But when she starts to say we, even in the small things, like we should try that restaurant, or we might want to look into that neighborhood, that's not casual. That's intentional. She's not just dreaming about her life anymore. She's dreaming about your life together. And that's a love that risks, that's a love that builds. In this modern world of independence and individualism, it takes vulnerability for a woman to imagine her future around someone else. And when she does it, it's not weakness, it's trust. Trust that you're worth including, that you're worth shaping her world around. That her vision of fulfillment now has your face in it. And do you know what else a woman does when she truly, madly, deeply loves you? She lets you see her in the raw, not just without makeup or in old pajamas. No, I mean she lets you see her without her masks. Without the polished image, she lets you see the parts of her she's hidden from the world. The tender, the terrified, the ashamed, the wild. Because here's the thing about feminine love, it is bold in its exposure. When a woman chooses you emotionally, she is saying, here is my story, all of it, can you hold it? And that is where the real relationship begins, not in the seduction, but in the revelation. It might come out slowly, through a story about her past, a crack in her voice when she talks about her mother, the way her eyes glaze when you mention something triggering, the subtle way she flinches at certain words. That's not drama, that's data, that's the code to her most protected self. And if she trusts you with it, that's sacred ground. A woman who genuinely loves you doesn't perform. She relaxes. Her nervous system settles in your presence. That's why she tells you what's wrong instead of pretending everything's fine. That's why she cries instead of staying stoic. That's why she'll risk looking too much or too emotional, because she trusts you enough not to turn away from her chaos. And when she loves you deeply, she doesn't just give love, she lets herself receive it. That might sound simple, but it's actually one of the most vulnerable things a woman can do. Many women have been conditioned to give endlessly and receive sparingly, to nurture everyone but themselves. So when she begins to soften in your care, when she lets you take the lead, when she actually allows herself to be held, to be helped, to be cherished, that's not dependency. That's intimacy. She's allowing herself to be loved back. That's how you know the love is real. It moves in both directions. You'll see it in how she lets you surprise her, how she lights up when you remember something she said weeks ago, how she clutches your arm when crossing the street, not because she needs protection, but because she's choosing connection. And here's something else: when a woman is in love, she becomes protective of the relationship. Not possessive, protective, there's a difference. Possessiveness comes from fear, protection comes from care. And when she protects the bond, she does things like defend you when others mock you, clarify things before they become miscommunications, stand up for the relationship when people question its value, and set boundaries that preserve its peace. You might not even notice at first the way she shields you from family drama, the way she tells her friend he's not perfect, but he's growing, and I admire that, the way she insists on solving a disagreement before bed, not to win, but to restore. That is a woman who is not only in love with you, but invested in us. And in that space, something beautiful happens. Your relationship becomes a sanctuary. A place where both of you can breathe deeper, speak softer, dream bigger. Now let's look at the subtle shift that happens in her body, in her tone, in her very being when she loves you. She becomes softer, not weaker, softer. There's a difference. Her touch lingers longer. Her voice drops into a quieter register when she speaks to you at night. Her kisses are not just lips on skin, they're small rituals of affection. Her embrace isn't just contact, it's anchoring. And when she wraps her arms around you, it's not just for warmth, it's her way of saying, I'm here, I choose you. Still, you see, love, real love, reshapes a woman from the inside out. It makes her more grounded, more open, more willing to risk the mess of intimacy, because being in love is not a feeling. It's an orientation, a way she begins to move through life, with you in mind, with us in mind, and perhaps the most striking thing is this: she will make you feel like you matter. In a world that often dismisses men's emotional needs, a woman in love sees yours. She notices when you're drained, when you're doubting yourself, when you're pushing too hard. She won't always fix it, but she'll acknowledge it, and sometimes that's all a man really needs. She'll bring you a glass of water without being asked. She'll say, go rest, I'll take care of it. She'll remind you of who you are when you forget, and when life gets loud and you start losing your center, she becomes the echo of your clarity. That's not control, that's contribution. That's the language of love that doesn't scream, it whispers. It lingers, it builds. So maybe now, if you've ever wondered whether she's truly in love with you, pay less attention to what she says and more to how she moves around you. Watch for how she shows up on the hard days, in the quiet mornings, in the middle of your mess. Look for how she tries not to change you, but to reach you. Feel for how your body responds in her presence. Does your chest feel lighter? Does your mind feel steadier? That's not coincidence, that's connection, and that, my friend, is a woman who is not just in your life, but with you in it. There is a moment, often subtle and unspectacular, when you realize she is no longer trying to impress you. She's simply with you, and it feels, honest, undecorated, like breathing out after holding it in for too long. That is where love begins to feel less like an achievement and more like a homecoming. And in that space, the final gestures of a woman deeply in love begin to unfold in ways that are quiet but unforgettable. One of the most powerful, and yet often misread, is her emotional availability through your difficult seasons. When things fall apart, when you've lost your job, made a mistake, failed, been humbled, how she shows up reveals everything. You see, many people will love you in your glory, but a woman who truly loves you, she will stand with you in your unraveling. She won't always have the right words. She may even get frustrated, but she won't shame you. She won't look at you with eyes that say, you are less to me now. No, she'll look at you with a kind of fierce tenderness that says, you are still mine, even here, even like this. And maybe she won't speak at all. Maybe she'll just sit next to you on the edge of the bed, legs touching, silence speaking for her. But her presence won't feel like pity, it will feel like grounding, like you don't have to hold the weight of it all alone anymore. This is love not as fantasy, but as fortress. She is holding space for the parts of you that have no words yet. And in a world where men are rarely offered that kind of holding, it's transformative. But make no mistake, this kind of love is not passive. It doesn't just accept you, it invites you to rise, to participate, to reciprocate. And that brings us to one of the most overlooked signs that a woman genuinely loves you. She invites you into her inner life. This isn't just about sharing details of her day or venting about work. This is deeper. She begins to share her fears, her longings, her unfinished business with her past. She tells you the stories she doesn't tell her friends. She lets you into the sacred, unedited version of her inner world. And she does so slowly, not because she doubts you, but because she respects what it means to truly let someone in. She lets you witness her complexity, not to overwhelm you, but to trust you with it. You'll hear it in the way she says, sometimes I don't feel good enough, and doesn't look away. You'll feel it when she opens up about something that still hurts, even though it happened years ago. That isn't drama, that isn't oversharing, that's transparency in motion, that's trust. And the truth is, it's easier for many women to give love than to reveal their raw, unguarded self to someone who matters. Because when she loves you, your opinion begins to matter, and there's nothing more vulnerable than letting someone you love see your fragility. So when she brings you into that space, tread gently, not with pity, not with advice, with presence, with curiosity, with the same kind of listening she offers you when you are unraveling. Now here's something that might surprise you because it isn't obvious and it often looks different than you'd expect. When a woman genuinely loves you, she begins to cultivate rituals of connection. These are not big, dramatic gestures. These are the small, meaningful habits that become the glue of intimacy. Maybe it's the way she always waits to eat until you're home, or how she texts you before a big meeting because she knows you get nervous. Maybe it's the way she sets her alarm 5 minutes early just to lie quietly beside you before the day begins. These rituals may not seem romantic in the traditional sense, but they are sacred in their intention. Because what they really say is, I'm thinking of you, I'm making space for you, you are part of how I move through the world. And as these rituals deepen, something else begins to happen. She starts defending your growth to yourself. Let me explain. You know those moments when you doubt yourself, when you feel behind in life, insecure about where you're headed, or critical of your own progress. A woman who truly loves you doesn't let you camp out in that space too long. She becomes your mirror. She reflects back the parts of you that you've forgotten. She'll say you've come so far, when all you can see is how far you have to go. She'll remind you of your effort, your resilience, your beauty, not to flatter you, but to anchor you. And it's not just emotional support, it's identity support. She holds a vision of you that is larger than your fear. That is one of the highest forms of love, because she's not loving you as you are in this limited moment. She's loving you as you are becoming. And sometimes, when you forget who that is, she reminds you. That kind of love is not for the faint of heart. It requires maturity, patience, commitment. It is not lust dressed up in romance. It is devotion dressed up in everyday life. And when you have that, when you recognize it and rise to meet it, that's when everything begins to change. Because here's the truth. Most men were never taught to look for these signs. They were taught to look for performance, for sex, for beauty, for comfort. But real love is often quieter and much, much deeper. It looks like presence during pain. It sounds like truth wrapped in care. It feels like safety where there used to be loneliness. And it doesn't announce itself loudly. It grows silently like roots. And when it takes hold, it grounds you in a way that nothing else can. So if you're wondering whether she truly loves you, step back and ask yourself, does she see me, even when I'm not performing? Does she show up even when I don't have answers? Does she invite me into her world, not just her body? Does she challenge me, not to criticize, but to call me higher? Does she create space for me to rest, to speak, to dream? If you feel the answer in your body before you form it in your mind, you already know. And if you do see this kind of love in your life, cherish it. Nourish it, rise to meet it, not because you have to, but because you get to. Because when a woman genuinely loves you, she is not offering you convenience. She is offering you partnership. Not just someone to share a bed with, but someone to build a life with. That is rare, and when you honor that, when you learn to see it, speak to it, protect it, it changes not just your relationship, but your entire experience of what it means to be a man. So take a breath, look around, pay attention. Love may already be speaking to you, not in declarations, but in gestures, not in fire, but in warmth, not in a rush, but in the rhythm of someone who's still here, still trying, still choosing you every day. Sometimes love doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly. Like the way she says your name when you're not listening. Like the glance she gives you across a room full of strangers that says, "You're still the only one I see." These are not headlines, these are the margins where real intimacy is written. And when a woman truly loves you, her actions begin to form a kind of emotional architecture, a structure that holds, supports, and shelters the relationship even through life's tremors. It shows up in the way she adapts to you. I'm not talking about losing herself or shrinking or bending in ways that betray her integrity. No, I'm speaking of a deeper wisdom, an instinctive relational flexibility that says, I know you, and I want to understand you better. When a woman loves you, she learns your rhythms, not to manipulate them but to meet them. If you need silence after a hard day, she learns not to fill it. If you process things slowly, she learns to wait with patience rather than pressure. She doesn't demand that you become like her. She learns how to dance with your difference. That is intimacy beyond romance. That is respect made visible. And do you know how you'll feel when this happens? You'll feel known, not just appreciated, not just desired, but known, and that kind of knowing is rare. Because most people love the version of you that you show them, she chooses to love the version of you that you often try to hide. The unfinished you, the inconsistent you, the brilliant and broken you, and when you notice this, when you allow yourself to be held in that kind of knowing, it changes how you love her back. Because genuine love is not one-sided. It's not just about what she gives, it's about how she allows you to give to her. This, too, is a subtle sign of real love. She lets you contribute to her joy. She lets you be part of her rituals, her sacred moments, her quiet pleasures. She shares a song with you that made her cry. She opens up about her dreams, not because she wants you to solve them, but because she wants you in them. She shows you the corner of her soul that no one else gets to see, and when you reach for it gently, she doesn't flinch. She welcomes it. That's not just trust. That's an invitation into emotional reciprocity. That's her way of saying, I want you to be part of my inner landscape. And when she genuinely loves you, she does not just want you to show up as a protector or provider. She wants you as a partner. That means she seeks your mind as much as your hands. She asks for your perspective, not because she can't decide without you, but because she values how you think. She believes in your wisdom. She sees your leadership as something that complements, not competes with hers. She brings you her dilemmas, not to be rescued, but to be witnessed, and in doing so she tells you, I want to be led sometimes, but I also want to lead with you. It's a dance, and in that dance there's no fixed lead, there's rhythm, there's timing, there's trust. And above all, there's responsiveness. She moves, and you follow. You move, and she responds. That's the choreography of love when it's alive. And no, it's not always graceful, but it's honest, and honesty, unpolished, unedited, unfiltered, is far more erotic than perfection. Now, let's talk about one of the most disarming and transformative things a woman does when she genuinely loves you. She forgives you. Not because she's weak, not because she wants to be walked over, but because she understands that love is a long game. That you will hurt her sometimes, that you will disappoint her, fall short, misstep. And she loves you anyway, not because she ignores the pain, but because she believes the relationship is worth more than the mistake. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts of love, and a woman who can look you in the eye and say, that hurt me, but I still choose us, that is not a woman to take for granted. Her forgiveness is not forgetting. It is a sacred remembering that we are still learning how to love each other. It's an act of grace, and grace, my friend, is the oxygen of lasting intimacy. So if she has forgiven you, if she has stayed through a storm you caused, don't confuse that for passivity. See it for what it is, a testament to her depth, her capacity, her resilience. And if you've never been forgiven like that before, it might feel foreign. But don't run from it. Let it teach you how to love her better. Let it soften the part of you that still believes you are only worthy when you're flawless. Because when she forgives you, she's not just releasing you, she's reclaiming us. Finally, let's talk about something that lives in the quiet corners of love, rituals of repair. When a woman genuinely loves you, she learns how to come back to you, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. She learns how to say, "I'm sorry," not just to end a fight, but to restore connection. She learns how to hold your hand again after conflict, not to pretend nothing happened, but to say, "We're still in this together." And you'll notice this. Her apologies are not laced with guilt. They are laced with care. She is not saying, "I was wrong, you were right." She's saying, "We matter more to me than who wins this." That's love rooted in maturity, in commitment, in a vision that stretches beyond ego and into shared meaning. And when both of you begin to learn this language of repair, your relationship becomes more than just a place to feel good. It becomes a place to grow together, because ultimately, a woman who truly loves you doesn't just offer you her affection. She offers you her evolution. She says, "Let's not stay the same. Let's become something extraordinary together." And if you can see that, if you can feel the quiet ways she is choosing you every day, then you have already tasted the kind of love most people spend a lifetime searching for. There's a kind of love that doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't need to. It moves like water, unassuming, persistent, life, giving. And when a woman genuinely loves you, that's what her love becomes. Not a storm, not a spotlight, but a current, subtle and steady, pulling you toward your own wholeness. She doesn't just want to be loved by you. She wants to build a life that is worthy of love with you. And if you listen closely, truly listen, you'll notice how she's always building a life, a rhythm, a home. And she builds with her presence, her patience, her hands, her questions, her laughter, her silence. She builds with the way she looks at you when you're not looking at yourself. She becomes, quite literally, part of your becoming. And in the end, this is the final and perhaps most profound gesture of a woman's love. She inspires you to want to be a better man, not out of pressure or fear, but because something about her awakens something in you, a deeper desire to step into your own fullness, to become more truthful, more grounded, more generous, more you. And that inspiration, my dear friend, is not manipulation, it's transformation. Because the truth is, when love is real, it doesn't demand change, it evokes it. You find yourself being more honest, not just with her, but with yourself. You start to speak more openly, move more intentionally, act more in alignment with your values. You become curious about your blind spots, your baggage, your beliefs. Not because she lectures you, not because she nags you, but because her presence invites it, because her love is a mirror, and in it you finally begin to see the man you were always meant to be. That's what genuine love does. It doesn't just comfort, it calls, it stretches, it roots, it rebuilds. And you realize love isn't just a feeling, it's a practice, a way of showing up every day, not just for her, but for the space between you, for the relationship, for the us that neither of you can create alone. You begin to understand that love isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of someone who stays when it's hard, who chooses the work, who chooses you again and again. Because the truth is, a woman who genuinely loves you won't always be soft. Sometimes she'll be fierce. Sometimes she'll frustrate you. Sometimes she'll pull you into a mirror you didn't ask to look into. But always, always, she is doing it in the service of connection. Her love is not a leash, it's a lantern. She doesn't want to confine you, she wants to find you. And when you see that, when you recognize the courage it takes for her to love you so fully, you begin to meet her not just with gratitude, but with devotion. You stop asking, "What am I getting?" and start wondering, "How can I show up for her the way she shows up for me?" That's when the relationship shifts. That's when it matures. That's when it becomes not a romance, but a partnership, a sacred collaboration between two sovereign people, each responsible for their own healing, yet deeply committed to walking that path together. And if you've ever had that, if you've ever tasted the depth of a woman's genuine love, you know that it is not something you can replace. It's not something you find on dating apps or chase through one-night highs. It's not something that comes quickly or easily. It is rare, and it is earned through presence, through honesty, through choice. So if you have that love now, tend to it. Water it, show up for it even when you don't feel like it, because that kind of love doesn't knock twice. And if you've lost it, if you look back and realize you missed the signs or took them for granted, let that memory become your teacher, not your shame. Let it refine the way you listen next time. Let it open your eyes to what truly matters, because love, real love, is always teaching us how to be softer without collapsing, how to be stronger without closing, how to stay present even when we want to run, how to hold space for another human being without losing ourselves. It teaches us that we are not just bodies or minds or desires. We are longing, we are fear, we are hope. We are all the things that make being human so messy and so magical. And to be loved genuinely, consistently, fiercely by a woman who sees all of you and still says, "I'm not going anywhere," that is one of life's most sacred gifts. So, wherever you are right now, whether you're in love, falling out of it, searching for it, or healing from it, I want you to remember this: you are worthy of real love. Not because you're perfect, not because you've earned it, but because you're human, and being human means being wired for connection. So take these insights, reflect on them, let them reshape the way you show up in your relationships, not just to recognize love, but to reciprocate it. Because a woman's genuine love is not something to analyze, it's something to honor, and when you learn how to do that consistently, humbly, deeply, you won't need to ask if she loves you. You'll know, "Thank you for spending this time with me," if this conversation stirred something in you. If it helped you see love more clearly or feel it more deeply, let me know in the comments. Share what you've learned, or what you've lost, or what you're still learning. Like this video if it spoke to you. Subscribe if you want to keep growing into the kind of man who recognizes and respects real love. And most of all, remember this: love doesn't need to be loud to be lasting. Sometimes the truest kind of love is simply this: she stayed, and so did you. Here's to love that sees, love that stays, and love that makes us better. Always.